Okay. Well, hope everyone's doing well. This is this year's celebration of Pride, and I'm here with Violet Valentine, an LGBTQ filmmaker. It's a pleasure to have her here. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
So my first question is, how did you get into how did you want to become a filmmaker? Who were some of your idols growing up in the industry?
I don't know much about the industry, but I can tell you movies I liked. I was obsessed with Wong Kar-wai. He was like a Hong Kong '90s romance director. He did
Oh wow.
In the Mood for Love is his best known one, but he did Fallen Angels, which is my favorite movie, Chungking Express, which changed my life the first time I saw it. A lot of that kind of stuff, and a lot of '90s Hong Kong romance is sort of my niche, special interest, if you will. And I'm obsessed with that stuff.
Okay, so that's awesome because I actually specialized in Hong Kong cinema as a film studies major.
Get the fuck
So
out.
I know all about Wong Kar-wai. I love his work. And I agree. In the Mood for Love is one of his best films. My favorite is Days of Being Wild. That was one of my favorites growing
Days of
up.
Being Wild. I've never heard anyone say that. That's a very interesting favorite. Why is that your favorite, if I may ask?
Well, for first, I love Andy Lau. He's one of my favorite actors, and
Okay, yeah, valid.
and of course, the story with the whole, within the gangster genre and all that. I think it really solidified some of his work, and you get to see some of the trademarks he did as well. So that's one of my favorites of his.
That's an excellent movie. I mean, they're all great. Well, all his first 5 or 10 are great. When he started doing movies with Jude Law, it was like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm glad you're still working.
yeah,
Not to like
exactly.
hate on my idol immediately, but Fallen Angels was my favorite, and I think the movie I made was I just made a movie. It's unofficially sort of a remake of Fallen Angels. I wanted to do Fallen Angels was right before China,
Chunking Express.
after 100 years British colonialism, as you know,
Yeah.
was going back to England. Or they didn't know what was going to happen. China communism was going to take over Hong Kong, and there was so much anxiety and so much like basically end of the world energy. Very relatable right now as an LGBTQ. I'm like, oh, you're worried about, yeah, everyone. Okay, yeah, this is very relatable. So that kind of like nihilistic panic is really, really hits with me. It's really awesome. So it was a really good starting place to kind of do like a queer version of that.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. I'm all for that. Yeah, I feel like as of late, LGBTQ cinema has become really prevalent. I mean, you got all these films coming out in various genres. It could be
Mm-hmm.
a romance film, could be LGBTQ horror film, a horror comedy. It's all, I think it's becoming more prevalent nowadays than it has been in the past.
I
What's your
completely
take on it?
agree. I like People's Joker and specifically TV Glow are like I feel like the two like the first great trans films of my generation. Those movies that really to me represent a very exciting time that's about to start. And there's a few more coming out soon. I feel like it's a very exciting time if you're trans because there's never been a good trans movie before, I would say. There's arguments about Tangerine, okay? Like we can like, you know, Funeral Parade of Roses. But as far as the ones that speak to me right now in this moment in time, like the things I saw in those two movies specifically, like really made me very excited about film right now.
Yeah, I think one of my first experiences with that was a 2004 Thai film called Beautiful Boxer, which is actually a true story.
Okay,
And
is that that's the trans boxer?
yeah,
I've heard of that.
it's about a man who wanted to be a woman, and to become a woman, he becomes a kickboxing champion. And to this day, she's actually in the movie too. She has a cameo in the film, the real version of this character, this person. And the actor who played that character was an actual kickboxing champion, and he did.
That's so
And this
cool.
is yeah, this is the first film he ever did, and he did such a great job on it.
That's so cool. I want to see them. That movie's like near the top of my list right now of movies I'm embarrassed I haven't seen. Like, yeah, it's so it's fun. I should definitely see it, right? I'll definitely see
Yeah,
that.
I would recommend that one. And
Thank
there was a
you.
comedy called it's also based on a true story, The Iron Ladies. That's also from Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about a volleyball team that made history. That was made up of, I think only the captain was hetero, but the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the team was LGBTQ. They players, and they ended up winning the national championships. But
That's
it was done as
amazing.
it was done as a comedy, but it was still like a really good movie. And I think it was an important film for LGBTQ cinema, in my opinion.
Dude, Thailand film. The fact that you just dropped two Thailand film titles is very impressive to me. That is a hard country. That's a very impenetrable culture to find their good movies. I've only in my life seen one good Thai movie, and I loved it. It was not to get too esoteric right out the gate, but have you ever seen Last Life in the Universe with
Yeah,
Asano Nobunaga and Christopher. You've seen that?
yeah,
God, that movie's amazing. I never. There's no movie with those kind of vibes. Like such a weird movie. It kind of reminded me of TV Glow, and that like it was more about vibes and energy.
yeah. And have you seen any LGBTQ films from Hong Kong? Have you seen any of those since you like Wong Kar-wai?
Embarrassingly, my horror accolades are only kind of mid. I've seen some, but it's specifically LGBT Hong Kong horror. I'd love some titles.
Or yeah, or even just LGBTQ films from Hong Kong. Have you seen any of those?
I mean, Happy Together, I think, is the best movie ever made. Like
Yeah.
straight up, like uh people can argue about that, and it's like, I don't know. Like in a way, it's the best because I don't even really like as a lesbian, gay men don't relate to me. I have the same feeling about gay men most lesbians have had. It's like they're cool, but they're men. But in that movie, like that was the first I saw that movie in college before I knew anything about myself. I'd never seen a story like that. I think it was almost maybe my first authentic introduction to like queerness. And that movie today stays with me. I straight in my movie, to be honest, the best scene in my movie is like a straight up homage to one of their fights. There's a bad breakup in that movie that breaks my heart every time. There's like a mirror in the background, and they're like throwing shit at each other and they're crying. Like that to me was like the most beautiful moment in like queer cinema, like specifically. And I was so excited to be like, I made the actors watch the scene on set, be like, okay, do whatever you want. You're doing your own thing, but like we have 2 minutes, watch this scene, and like, this is sort of like an energy that I'd like to kind of channel. And
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
my actors were cool about it. Yeah, like there happened to be like the set we're on happened to have a large scale mirror, just by luck. And I like made the crew like carry this giant heavy mirror. And I'm like, no, it's like Happy Together. Like it's got to have like them. And it was a very like not like a nerdy Christopher Doyle homage.
There's a movie that came out a few years ago, and it's on top of my list now. I want to see it. It's called Tracy, and it's about a transgendered woman. And the actor who plays the title character, I think he actually won a Hong Kong Film Award for his role. And
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I'd love to see that.
And I've heard so much about it, so I was like, I was like, I got to put that on my list to check out.
I'm excited to be on this podcast because it is so, as a trans filmmaker and a queer filmmaker, I have been trying so hard to find movies to watch, and there are very few good resources. You Google like best queer films or top 10, and like they didn't have any of the movies you've listed on. Like I can't Google. I just found, I think it was called Trans Panic Podcast, and it was like the first podcast where I'm like, I actually found a movie I hadn't seen from like a resource. It was a shout out to that podcast, thank you. But it is so hard to keep up with. Even as a filmmaker, I ask other filmmakers, and like I met with I won't say her name, but I met with a trans filmmaker, and we were talking about lesbian movies, and we hadn't seen any of the same ones. I was like, you've never seen like Firefox, like when you're a lesbian, like like Foxfire, like what were the other ones? They hadn't seen that one. They hadn't seen All Over Me. Neither movie that good, but like there's not that many lesbian movies, and one of them is Angelina Jolie, so I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. And then one of my favorites back in the day was Personal Best with Meryl Hemingway. That's a really old film.
I don't even know that one.
Yeah, she's an Olympic, like she's an athlete trained for the Olympics, and she ends up in an affair with her coach, who was a woman. And yeah, it gained like some major rave back then. And then even before that, there was a movie called Making Love, and it's about a married man who has an affair with another man and tells his wife about it. Has to tell her what's going on, and she ultimately accepts it. So,
sounds great.
It's like I feel like now more it's becoming more prevalent though. I mean, I haven't watched one from Switzerland, an LGBTQ film a few years ago called Beto, which was really amazing because this one's about like traditions and all that. It's about I think he was Turkish, a Turkish guy he was trained to be a swimmer and he falls for his coach. But then he's in an arranged marriage, so he's conflicted with his identity, and so he finally realizes, this is who I am. I'm in love with my coach. Tells his wife, and his wife ultimately, I'll tell you, she does accept it. She's like, okay, I think we can work this out somehow. Let's, we'll appease our families, but at the same time, I'm accepting you as this gay man. I'm totally fine with that.
I love that. Let me ask you a question real quick. Actually, speaking of like what qualifies as a queer movie, you're familiar with the movie Tangerine? Yeah, like I've been arguing with people about that. Is that a trans movie? And I know it's sort of like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie where like it doesn't matter? But I've been debating a lot because on the one hand, I feel like a trans movie has to be made by a trans director. That's like a pet issue. I'm tired of cis people There was someone I saw, they were like a cis person making a movie called like Dead Name. And I'm like, oh, that's such a cis title. That's such a like, when you see trans people, that's like what you see. And like, I've never in my life seen anything by, anytime cis people write about trans people, at best it's cringe. However, that movie, recently I was talking to a friend of mine who's like an LA sex worker, and she saw it and said she saw herself in it. And she said it was like the first movie. And like, it's kind of breaking my theory. like so do you have an opinion on, I not to like put you on the spot with my pet question?
No, it's fine. Well, I think if the story is important and the trans character is important to the story,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think regardless of who the director is, as long as the director can understand how the community works, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
then I can consider it a trans movie. You know what I mean? Not like something
I do.
stereotypical.
Do you think cis people can understand the trans community well enough, like from an artistic point of
I
view, if
think
I may?
eventually it
Like,
could. I mean, I myself,
you
I'm
do?
I'm I'm straight. I'm an ally, so that's why
Yeah,
I
yeah. Do you
support.
feel qualified to write a trans movie though? Honestly, like you've never, have you ever made a trans movie? Like, would
Yeah,
that be
no, I
something?
never made one. No, definitely not. I'm not a filmmaker,
Right.
but I think
That's
as
my
long as,
point.
yeah. So I feel as
Yeah, I
long
don't
as
know because like he kind of disproved me because he worked with the actors and that movie is incredibly authentic. I'm the biggest Sean Baker fan in the world. I want to say I've seen all of his movies 20 times. It's like an intellectual question. It's interesting. A lot of people said Crimes of the Future was a trans movie made by a cis guy, and I have not seen it. But body horror, if a trans woman likes a body horror movie, that's the all the seal of approval I need to love that
yeah.
movie. So yeah, I think it could be possible. I mean, Sean Baker certainly makes a strong case.
Yeah, I think it all depends on if the director can understand how, if they can understand the trans person, and then, just like those movie called Haymaker, which is
Mm-hmm.
about a guy he was a kickboxing champion, and he ends up like retiring, and he ends up and falling for he ends up becoming a bodyguard to a nightclub singer, and he
Okay.
discovers that she's trans,
Okay.
and he accepts it.
Okay.
And I think so. The actor who played the kickboxer was also the director of the film, and I think he purposely wanted to hire a trans actor in that
Of
role
course.
to show
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. I think other than Sean Baker and a couple of examples though, I would say I think cis people should not make movies about trans people. Like if they can, some of them can pull it off, but in general, I think there's plenty of trans directors who need to make movies, and I'm very tight. Like They Them was just like a movie about being non-binary, be like a cis white gay guy. And I'm like, I don't want to see that.
That's
That doesn't
understandable.
sound.
That's
I'm not
understandable.
interested in his take on like anything related to that. Like I haven't seen the movie. I don't want to like shit on my peers. Like I'd work with them. Don't get me wrong. But like conceptually, in principle, I think one of my pet issues has been trans people should make trans movies, and everybody else should write about their life experiences. And like if you want to write about us, like that's already almost suspicious to begin with.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, I like it's kind of like my radical, edgy like take too. I don't want to be like anyone can make art. I In my movie, I have a black main character, and I wrote some race jokes, and I worked with the actor. I'm like, is this cool, black person? Like, can I? And I believe that I'm somewhat qualified to do that. Now, the ultimate judge will be the audience. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like if you're going to write something racial, it better fucking land. Like, it better be good. I remember on 30 Rock, in season 3, they started getting accused that some of their jokes were kind of like kind of racist, and their actual statement was like, "We've always been making these kind of jokes. They just were funny before."
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
if it lands, like it's one thing, but as soon as you make like a racy joke that doesn't land, like, ooh, that's something you have to live with for the rest of your life. Like that is not.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, so I was like, I mean, the actor I worked with, like Antoine McKay, he's like been on Empire. Like I felt like he was like qualified to like, and it wasn't even that bad. It was like a pretty tame joke. But when you're writing it, like as a white person, there's a moment like, okay, like I think this is funny. Like Eastbound and Down is funny, but yeah, you definitely better be careful as soon as you start doing things that are outside your perspective. I can say anything about trans people. I could use a T slur as much as I want. It's one of the only good things about being trans.
Exactly. But yeah, there's some. I was also thinking like there was one interesting film I saw, an LGBTQ film. It was actually a superhero film
Oh
called
yeah.
Siege of Power: Revenge of the Sequel.
Mhm.
This one barely was like, because of course there's stereotypical LGBTQ stuff, and
Yeah.
guys, and I don't I can't stand that anymore. It may have been. it may have been one thing as a joke back in the old days when you're growing up, but as you get older, you kind of realize it's not that funny anymore. And
No, it's really not.
and I'm,
There's so many
and
ways to be funny that aren't that too.
yeah, even if it is an LGBTQ filmmaker doing it, it's like you don't want to keep the stereotypes going. You kind of want to,
Some of
but
some of the
thankfully,
worst, some of the most offended I've ever been is movies made by LGBT filmmakers.
yeah.
And
Well,
I will
this one,
stop there and
I
not
think
say
again, this one only like had two scenes that had the stereotypes, but then the rest of it was totally like straightforward. And like a matter of fact, the villain of the film was LGBTQ, and he's struggling not just because of the hero, but he's also struggling because his mother accepts him, but his dad doesn't. So he's
okay.
struggling with that, and I feel like that's important in a way too, because there's going to be that type of niche that you're going to probably have one parent who accepts it, the other one doesn't, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I
think
hear
that makes
you.
sense.
Yeah, being queer does not give you like you like some people think because they're queer they can like do and say whatever they want. And like, okay, like maybe, but I don't like it. I don't like I've been offended by queer people plenty. They get a lot more leeway, certainly. But yeah, like everyone's responsible for the message. When I make my movie, I'm so obsessed with what I'm saying. Like more important than like the movie itself, like the actual. I'd rather see like a mediocre. I mean, you don't have to choose. I think it's a better movie if you focus on what you're saying first. There's a lot of other things have to fall in place. There's some movies with good messages that are bad movies, but first and foremost, I think what you're putting into the world, is the most important thing. I do a lot of political stuff, though. I mean, not. I don't find it political, but I think other people would. If you know what I mean. Like I don't think being trans is a political statement, but
No,
certainly people will watch my movie and like come away with probably. I mean, TV Glow just came out, one of the first great trans movies, and it's an explicitly it's a trans movie. The director has said so. It very obviously is, especially to trans people. And I've been reading reviews in like the New Republic. There was this like 70-year-old like rich gay guy who was like, this movie is about like our obsession with pop culture from the 80s, like just these insane misinterpretations. And trans art interpreted by queer art, specifically trans art, however, interpreted by like cis people is like some of the most hilarious shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Like I was hiring this editor. I was interviewing her. I didn't hire her. And I had her watch my movie and I said, what's the movie about? What do you like about it? What do you not like? Excuse me. And she said, I like these characters. I'm rooting for them, but why are they so mad about capitalism? That you should explain that. And like that's like because they're fucking trans. like it was just like also like I'm not really rooting for my characters. I sort of hate them. You know what I mean? I think they're the bad guys, and like everything about that, I'd never in a million years. I had another one of my producers was like, I can't tell the characters apart. Like maybe we should like have a voiceover, and I was like, that's I don't want to say like all you trannies look the same, but like I don't know what to do with that. I'm like
crazy.
I'm like one of them's a goth, one of them is like they're both like notable in their community. It was, but like you don't know until you like. I want to have a focus group when my movie's done and show the squarest suburban dudes and like moms and like focus group and be like, what was it about? What do you think? And just like videotape it and like laugh.
That's a good idea.
I would love. That's like one of my. If I had any money, I would definitely do. I could probably do that. We'll see. It's definitely something I want to do because in the process, anytime when I started making the movie, there were more cis people involved. By the time I shot it, it was like my crew was 70% queer, maybe like 80-90% queer. It's hard to find sound guys, like, but anyone we could. The cast is like I think 100% queer. No, not. It's like 80% queer. And that's when we started cooking. But early in the process, like people are constantly giving me just insanely bad notes, just like incredible, like hilariously cis feedback. And you just clean house and you're like, thank you for working with me. It was nice seeing you. This isn't the right project for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first edit of the film, I don't want to trash on anyone who worked for me. He was a good guy. There's like a 9-minute sex, not a like a 7-minute, 8-minute sex scene. It's like a lesbian movie. It's slow. It's beautiful. I really believe in like sex scenes, like in film. It's like a kind of like a discourse point. And I want to join the war on sex scenes on the side of sex scenes. And I think it's the most beautiful scene in the movie. There's things they say that to me like thematically change how you watch the rest of the movie. Like these little like these little lines that like change how you look at the character. And a cis person edited, they cut, it was a lesbian love scene, they cut all the foreplay out. And I'm like,
Really?
we're fucking lesbians. Foreplay is the sex. Like I was like offended. I watched it. It just cut to like coming, and then it ended. I'm like, like what are you? You're fired. You're fired. You're like the most fired man in the world. Like you've never met a lesbian in your life. You also cut vaporwave to it. I don't want to trash, but like that's maybe in like 2015 if you were like a 45-year-old dad. Like vaporwave, yeah, vibing, but. It was rough. I'm sorry. I should let you talk. I don't mean to go on.
Oh no, you're good. No, that's good. That's
Cool,
fine.
cool.
That's what I love about doing this. It's pretty cool. I like that. That's really interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, earlier this a couple months ago, I saw this great film from India called A Place of Our Own, and
Mhm.
it's about two trans women who got kicked out of their apartment, and they spend the rest of the like movie trying to find a new house, and of course they're getting grilled by the prospective homeowners, you know, of these of the
Mhm.
apartments, and some of them are like, some of them like question them, like, oh, so you know, what's it like being trans? You know, what is it? You know, and then you
Mhm.
have one cis like homeowner really ticked off because I guess her
Mhm.
son was showing them the apartment, and she's like, I don't want those type of people there. I'm like, so it's also about them trying to gain acceptance in the community. And there's this great scene where they go to a women's group and they're fully accepted into
Mhm.
this women's group, even, you know, knowing that
Yeah.
they're trans. And I felt like, holy, this is a really good, like this was a really good movie. And I like that you get like the different points of views from all these other characters, like questioning like what's it like being, you know, because they kind of, except for the one who just outright said, you know, get them out of here, I don't want those type of people. But the other ones like really, they question it because they're kind of curious about it. But of
Mhm.
course you have one of the trans women like seeing that as offensive, like everything, even the questioning is offensive all the time. The other one's trying to say, no, just calm down. I think they're just curious about who we are and they wanted to get to know us. And the other one's like, well,
Mhm.
I don't care. But overall, it's fine.
I'm that one. I'm the one when trans people try to ask me normal, healthy questions, I snap at them. That's the character I am. You are absolutely owning me. You are pulling tight. I thought I'd seen every movie, and like you pulled like five like trans movies. Like I am so excited. My wife's out of town for the week, which is like I feel like my mom went away and I can like throw parties. And I just want to like binge. She makes me watch Law and Order full time, and I love it. Law and Order is the best show ever.
Yeah, I
But
watched it.
I tried to put on like weird art stuff, and she like pulls out her hair. So I'm like really excited to just like blow through like the most esoteric foreign like trans lesbian art films and just like cry my eyes out this week. Thank you. So yeah, I want a list of every one of these movies if I could ask you.
Yeah, these are great movies. And then I watched one on Tubi called Slay, which is like I called it I call it Priscilla Queen of the Desert meets From Dusk Till Dawn. It's like
Okay.
four drag queens get mistakenly brought to a biker bar for a show, and then they end up fighting vampires when they take
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
bar. But I
So
liked it. I like that, you know, the
yeah.
whole thing where they're first like scared out of their minds, and then they're like, you know what, the hell with this. We're gonna fight with the whoever's left over, and you know, it's
Mhm.
such a fun little movie. I like that type of stuff. So I grew up watching the crazy.
It sounds very Amelia. Are you familiar with an Australian, probably like arguably the most accomplished, Alice Mayo McKay? Does that name mean anything to you?
Yes,
Oh my God. I saw T.
I actually interviewed her for Bad Girl Boogie last year.
Really?
Yeah,
God, I want to interview her. I actually
yeah,
I hired her to give me notes on my movie. And she gave me like amazingly good notes. She's like what, like 12 years old. She's like 19. She has 5 feature films, all of which play in festivals. I saw T Blockers in LA, and it wasn't the most packed out theater I've ever been to, but every single person in that theater was a trans film director. Like it
cool.
was just like it was my entire Twitter feed, like every line. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
like Vera Drew did the Q&A after. I won't just like name drop them all, but it was like the most. And there's never been a movie that like people were like cheering at the end. Like I
yeah.
am so excited about
I
her
found
career.
Bad Girl Boogie to be quite interesting because it's like she pulled a Uno reverse card where
Mhm.
someone wears this mask and they're targeting LGBTQ people. Like I'm like, what? I was like, and I did my interview with her last year. She was so great to talk to, and
Yeah,
had a blast with her.
I want to talk to her. Also, one of the stars of my movie when she came in for Outfest, she screened at Outfest, which is like the most like, oh, you're 19, you're already screening at Outfest. Like it took me till I won't even say my age because I'm a woman, but like till I was old to screen at Outfest. I got like a short film screen there, and my friend partied with her after and said it was like she's like the most fucking rad, like just like really fun to party with, like nice crazy Australian girl. Yeah, she's gonna be like the queen of all of us one day. She's gonna be like the Tony Stark of our Avengers, or I think no, I don't mind making an Avengers parody when I'm talking about art films, but she'll be the Nick Fury of tranny Avengers.
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure. Dude, she's just great. Yeah, she's great. Yeah, and I'm friends with a LGBT filmmaker, Mark Schwab. He did a couple of great films. One's called Shadows of Mind, and it was released. So a distributor picked it up and called it Crisis, gave it a generic title, Crisis Hotline, and it was
Mm-hmm.
about a guy who works at the Crisis Hotline. He gets a call from a gay man saying, and the gay man's going, "I'm going to kill them all, and then kill
Mm-hmm.
myself." And then we get to learn about the story where he was this this kid comes in from to LA and he meets this other guy and they have a relationship, and then he gets duped by two of his boyfriend's friends. Like he gets
Mm-hmm.
drugged and they made a video with him, and he wakes up and discovers what's happened, and he decides, he calls up this guy and says, I'm gonna shoot them all, and this guy's trying to reason with him throughout the film, and such a great movie. And then they did another one called Brotherly Lies, which
Mm-hmm.
was a combination of LGBTQ and cis people in a one just one location, and it's about these
Mm-hmm.
complicated relationships throughout everything. It was such a great film. And then Mark did a semi sequel to that film called Exteriors, which is like three little short stories. It's getting an anthology. And then
Mm-hmm.
last year I interviewed Mark and like like six actors from Exteriors. So we had this big roundtable of last year's Pride event, and we just started talking about LGBTQ cinema and all that. So it was so much fun, and you know, and it's just cool that I get to talk to you this year with about the trans cinema, because I'm not too familiar with trans cinema, although I've seen a few, but to get your point of view on it, I think means a lot. The audio's out. Audio's out. Oh, there we go.
Now,
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you now.
okay, cool. Pardon me. Luckily, I
That's all
have
right.
that.
I'll edit this little portion out.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Technical. That's for a podcast. One technical issue is a success in my experience.
Yeah.
I did the best podcast of my life. I interviewed Nikki Ofan, this amazing human being, a kind of a queer icon in my community. And microphone was not on the entire time. Someone forgot, and it was like the best thing I ever did. It'll always be the one that got away, and I can sort of build it up too.
Yeah.
It's like it was even now that I can hear it. It's the Rosetta. It is the Lost. It's the Back to the Future with Eric Stoltz,
Yeah.
the greatest
Exactly.
lost movie of all time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, as I was saying, it's really
Yes.
cool that, like I said, I'm not familiar with trans cinema in a way, but to to get your
Oh,
point
you
of view,
are.
it really means a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I really feel like I'm making a movie because there's not really trans movies being made. There's
Yeah.
not the way I experience transness. There's a lot of movies about sex workers, which I mean, my movie is about sex workers too, so I shouldn't say that. Um, it stars there's actually 13 sex workers in my movie, so that's my community. But nothing is really speaks to me. I watch a show like El Venino, which I loved, but like being trans in the 80s and being Spanish is like no, it's as alien to me as a cis person. Like I don't know what that was like. I don't have that relationship with it, but those people do. Or I've never had a movie speak to me. And again, when I saw People's Joker, I saw it in a sold out theater, like 500, I don't know how many 23-year-olds with like Joker makeup on, losing their fucking minds. Just, I'm TV Glow has been out for 5 weeks, maybe six. I know three people personally who have the tattoo. I have three of my friends have probably seen it more than 8 times. Like it is, people are so desperate because, especially with trans representation, so many people, most trans people, in fact, say the first time I realized I was trans was like either when I saw Jerry Springer or like a problematic character who had like one line in a movie. Like we're so desperate to see ourselves, and identity like is such, especially in such a media obsessed culture like where we are. seeing like accurate representation that's not Jerry Springer show. Like I was talking to someone last night, they're like, yeah, I realized I was trans during Jerry Springer show. And I was like, that's the saddest shit I've ever heard in my life. That's fucking sad. Like,
Yeah.
And I was 10% jealous because I saw the Jerry Springer show and I didn't realize it. I would have loved to like have a hint. But I just saw that show and I was like, this is something I don't want to be. And that's like all I took away from that. I didn't even identify it. It was like a total other. So like the fact that like the impact those two movies have had in people I love. One of my close friends said they became trans because of People Joker, and they are not kidding. They are the amount of people who are becoming trans because of TV Glow. I think it's going to do more than who was the girl who made everybody trans? ContraPoints. ContraPoints probably made more people trans than any other single human in history. She's like a YouTuber who just like, you know ContraPoints. I think TV Glow, years from now, there will be an entire type of trans person who like TV glowed up. And if I can even make one person, although my movie, every trans movie so far has been about early transition. Every movie is about realizing you're trans, accepting it, kind of coming of age. And I want to make the first trans movie that's about like being over it late in transition. I want someone who realized that I always said a good sequel to TV Glow was the character wakes up in the body of a girl, finally gets to be trans, and then immediately gets doxxed by Kiwi Farms. Like, because like there's like this honeymoon when you're trans, like, oh my God, I figured it out. This is great. And then you're like, everyone wants to genocide me. Like I'm assaulted weekly. This is actually kind of sucks. Like, and I think my movie, although I think, sorry, not to go on, but another point that I'm really interested in trans movies is they are all very much, since they are a moment in time, the filmmaker makes something about usually their transition. And that movie really speaks to people who are that age and transition. TV Glow, for example, all my friends who have tattoos are between like 27 and 30, which is like about the same age as the filmmaker. A lot of my friends who are over 40 said I loved it, but you know, there was a bunch of stuff that like I didn't relate to. And a lot of people who are younger were like, I'm glad I transitioned soon. And I mean, that's what's beautiful and personal about it. Like these movies are not movies for everybody. That's the whole idea of it. But something that I'm really proud of is I think, I shouldn't even say this because I'd rather like it almost be subliminal, but I made a conscious point to have multiple characters at different points in their transition. I think there's three types of trans people. There's embarrassing eggs, cringy babies, and nihilistic leftists. Those are like the three phases of transition. And I really tried to make a point to even have them sort of talk in some points and have their like different perspectives and the different things that make them kind of like the three horrible things about those points.
Yeah.
Like, because they're all kind of horrible in their own way. Like, I am definitely like everybody dies in my movie. It's a miserable. They're all destroyed by capitalism. I am definitely like at the very least a nihilist, probably more. I think that's an important message too. I think it's beautiful. I think acknowledging the pain we feel and seeing it. But the thing is, everyone they know they're going to die, but they're still smoking cigarettes. They're still getting high and joking around. They're bopping through life. Like that's me. Like I leave the house, people assault me. I'm not passing. I'm older. I get the worst of it. My life kind of blows, but you know, sometimes I'm just getting high with my friends and laughing. You know what I mean? Sometimes I go to a queer event and everybody there makes me feel special. Like just because we live in hell doesn't mean we cannot smoke weed before we die.
There you go. I think that's the best thing I've heard in my life. Just because we live that.
Thank you.
I really love that. I think that's the best thing I ever heard. That's awesome. I think I have to tell my wife that. I think she would get a kick out of that for sure.
It kept me going, man. Like I'm just a straight up. I think I want to make the first. I feel like my gender is stoner in some ways. Like I could not separate my transition from like being in the pandemic, where I had autoimmune disorders, so I did not leave the fucking house for like a year. Just like eating edibles, staring at the ceiling, like having gender thoughts, like that. Yeah. I couldn't imagine for someone like me ever getting there without like a year to just like do dabs and be like lost in my mind, panicking, like while the world is like dropping dead of COVID around me.
Yep, I hear that. So what's the name of your film and when can we possibly expect it?
Great question. My film is called God's Country. We had a little issue with some money stuff. We should probably start a crowdfunding soon, although maybe there's a lot of things with that. That's the most boring part of filmmaking, or the most interesting. After you get the money, it's a great story, but during it, it's like begging strangers and them saying no. Like I've been making this movie for 3 years now, and there is no one in my life who's not been asked 5 times. They're like, we need more money. I'm like, I literally I don't have like a secret name at year 3 where I'm like, let me call this person. Like, it is the well is dry, and we're like only $10,000 away from finishing a movie.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, like it's ridiculous how much has gone into it, and like we're like an inch from the finish line, and we're like, I sold my car. Like I sold everything I own. I sold my I had my mom send me my magic cards when I was 13, and I'm like, which are hard to sell.
Yeah.
You have to have like feedback ratings. It was not simply selling it. If anybody wants the Library of Alexandria Italian Legends in decent condition, email me. Make film possible. But to answer your question with a short answer, hopefully this year. I wanted to get up before the election. I think there's something very Biden years like about the feelings we have. It might the next when Trump wins, it might fit into that era better or worse. But I know in my heart right now that the ennui of the Biden years is like very much like smoking weed and waiting to die. I can qualify for that. So hopefully this year, I'm hoping for a theatrical release too. I can't say names, but we do have like a big name producer who has seen it, likes it, and is waiting for a final cut to like give us anything official.
Yeah.
But short answer, hopefully it's in theaters this year.
Awesome.
If not early next year at the very latest.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you about.
Oh, it was so nice. Thank
so
you.
great.
If I can
And
bother
we're
you
definitely-
for like every trans movie I should watch this week.
Yes.
As a filmmaker, like that stuff, like
And
thank you.
you know what? We're gonna keep in touch. I'm gonna send you that list of films so you can check them out with your wife and all that. And it's been a great talking
Please.
to you. Yeah, it's been
Likewise. Anytime you want to hang out or talk, like this was really fun. Have a good
this
day.
is awesome. Yeah, we definitely gotta do this one again.
Anytime. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Peace.
Well, everyone check out worldfilmgeek.com. Latest reviews. Check out the podcast. We're gonna for this episode. And
oh yeah. Can I plug my Twitter? Bimbo Nihilism at twitter.com.
Drop it.
That's all. That you can learn way too much about me. I'm 90% a filmmaker, 10% a shit poster, and I'm being polite with that number. If you want to see me have mental health breakdowns, I feel like as a trans filmmaker, it's important to be authentic. Everything's on there, and any info about my movies there. And yeah, thank you very much once again.
All right. Well, everyone, you take care. You all stay awesome and have a great day.
Thank you.